Hunter x Hunter meets Pokémon, the Nen Master who conquered both worlds. Please like, share, and subscribe. Episode 61. Is it rain? No. It's cold sweat. Lin Ke stared at Hisoka, who seemed to be stunned, his eyes filled with alarming cold light. Hisoka said nothing. It's not that he doesn't want to say it, it's that he is speechless. After a while, Lin Ke asked Ban Hila to put away his murderous intention and calm down again. Hisoka's face relaxed and he breathed heavily, as if he had just drowned. No one around them knew what had just happened. Only Ilmi, who shook his head click-click, seemed to feel something, and glanced at Hisoka, who was panting. After regaining his composure, Hisoka took a deep look at Lin Ke, who had a calm expression, with fear in his eyes. So he got up and planned to stay somewhere else. He didn't want to be around Lin Ke anymore. Although Hisoka is a fighting maniac, he estimates everyone's strength quite accurately. His rating is basically the opponent's strength. Faced with a being whose strength far exceeds his own, he will not challenge the other party at the risk of death. Instead, continue to practice hard and wait until you are almost mature before challenging the other party. What Hisoka hates the most is one-sided battles. This one-sidedness refers to both the other party and yourself. Hisoka could tell just from the murderous intention just now that Lin Ke was extremely powerful, even the strongest existence he had ever seen. Glancing at Hisoka, who was leaving in a hurry, Lin Ke slowly closed his eyes to rest. He didn't have a good impression of perverts like Hisoka, so let's forget it this time. If it bothers me again later, it can't be as simple as threatening me. Hisoka twisted her waist and walked towards the side, with a hint of excitement hidden under her fearful eyes. A strange flush appeared inexplicably on the originally pale face, and the voluptuous makeup looked even more terrifying. His body began to tremble again, but unlike the shock just now, this time he was trembling with excitement. Although he is far inferior to Lin Ke now, he will train harder in the future until one day he can fight against him head-on. Thinking of this, Hisoka suddenly felt a dampness on the back of his neck and touched it with his hand. It's a few drops of water. Is it raining? Staring at the slightly wet fingertips, Hisoka murmured to himself. Hisoka suddenly remembered that he was in a sealed underground tunnel and there was no way it would rain. Is it cold sweat? Ding dong. Not long after, a crisp sound came from the direction of the elevator again. It means that new candidates have come here. The elevator door opened immediately, revealing 3 figures inside. One was wearing a suit and small glasses like an old man. He looked very mature even though he was young. He was holding a briefcase in his hand, like an office worker. One was younger, wearing a green sportswear, with a long fishing rod hanging out of the backpack behind him. The most conspicuous thing is his black hair that looks like both a sea urchin and a hedgehog, which stands out. The last one is the most handsome among the 3, with short dazzling golden hair, and his robes have unknown patterns. It is said that it is a special costume of the Kaluta tribe. The 3 of them are Leorio, Gon, and Kurapika, who are the protagonists. The atmosphere seems weird. Leorio put his briefcase behind his back and said solemnly. After the 3 of them took the number plates from the bean-faced man one by one, a seemingly honest voice came from the side. Hey, they are all new faces. Are you all new in this issue? Can you recognize it? Gon asked with confusion on his childish face. That's right, because I have taken the hunter exam 35 times. Tompa jumped down from the wall nearby and pretended to be honest. 35 times. Surprised by Tompa's understatement, the 3 of them shouted in unison. Lin Ke, who was resting against the wall on the other side, also noticed the situation here, raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and walked towards here. By the way, this is a meeting gift. Do you want some? On the surface, Tompa took out the drinks cordially and wanted to entertain the 3 of them, but secretly he was laughing secretly. He put an enhanced version of laxatives in it. As long as a few people take it, they will no longer be able to take the exam well. This is also the origin of his nickname Rookie Killer. When Gon opened the drink and smelled it, a rotten smell that ordinary people couldn't smell penetrated the tip of his nose. Mr. Tompa, this should have expired, right? Gon's words scared the thirsty Leorio and spit out the juice in his mouth. Huh? It's true, I almost drank it. Kurapika, who was the most sensitive to danger among the 3, had no intention of drinking it and opened it directly and poured the juice on the ground. That's weird. I must have made a mistake, right? Tompa smiled sheepishly, filled with disbelief. This laxative is colorless and odorless. Bring me a bottle of laxative juice, the new killer, Tompa. Lin Ke walked up to a few people with a smile, but what he said made Tompa break into a cold sweat. Seeing that something was obviously wrong with the way Gon and the other three looked at her, Tompa rubbed the back of her head in embarrassment. The next second, he took a step forward and got into the crowd. It disappeared in the blink of an eye. Lin Ke stood there, looking at Tompa, who fled with interest. In fact, Tompa has a nickname besides Rookie Killer, which is East Freaks. But this is a nickname that fans made fun of. Because Dong Freaks has never played, and Tompa has never fully demonstrated its strength. At the same time, both of them have the word in their names, so some fans joked that they are the same person. Although it is obviously impossible, I have to say that Tompa is quite talented. Especially in terms of predicting danger, among ordinary people who have not learned to read, he can be called a master. Not everyone can take the hunter exam 35 times without any problems. You must know that the hunter exam has a high elimination rate, and death also accounts for a large part of it. From this we can see that Tompa is extraordinary. Episode 62. I haven't seen you for a while, Seisai. It is said that he actually had a chance to pass the exam and become an official hunter, but because he could not take the exam again after passing it. There was no way he could continue his hobby of killing newcomers, so he didn't want to pass the exam. Usually, he would leave in the third or fourth exam, sometimes passively, and sometimes on his own initiative. Lin Ke is very curious about what kind of Nen Tompa will develop if he comes into contact with Nyen. According to his estimation, it is likely that he has the ability to detect danger. It can be considered a rare talent. Sir, thank you for reminding us. Gon thanked the thoughtful Lin Ke. If Lin Ke hadn't reminded him, he wouldn't have realized it. Of the three, Kurapika was probably the first to notice that something was wrong with Tompa. It's just a trivial matter, just call me Lin Ke. After some conversation, the four of them became familiar with each other, and Gon and others also learned that Lin Ke was a new student like them. Ding 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 ding. Suddenly, a loud and harsh ringing sound came from behind the huge stone door. The bell sounded like a switch. As the bell rang, the stone door slowly lifted upwards, revealing a thin figure behind it. The heavy stone door moved upwards, causing slight vibrations throughout the venue, making the candidates begin to tremble. The man was wearing a black suit, had short purple hair, and a very conspicuous curly beard. He was holding a strange little toy in his hand, which was the ringing sound just now. The man is none other than Saji, who fought alongside Lin Ke not long ago. I have kept everyone waiting for a long time. The hunter exam is official. Mr. Lin Ke? Originally, Satsuki had a standard expression, looking like a calm lake without any ripples, and said the opening words calmly. Until he saw a familiar and impressive face in the crowd. Satsuki shouted with a shocked look on his face, even the small mouth that was originally hidden under his curly beard was exposed. Hey, Satsuki, I haven't seen you for a while. A friendly smile appeared on Lin Ke's angular face, and he waved his right hand gently to say hello to Sasiai. The two did not realize that the conversation between them caused an earthquake-like movement among the other candidates. What? Does this guy know the examiner? Hey, how can you let someone who knows the examinee be the examiner? He won't use the back door, right? Who is this person? How can he know that kind of person? All of a sudden, the candidates were talking heatedly. Some were surprised that Lin Ke knew Seisai, while others were worried about whether Lin Ke would use the back door through connections. That's awesome, Leo Rio, Kurapika, did you hear that? Mr. Lin Ke knows Mr. Examiner. Gon looked at Lin Ke, who was smiling, his eyes full of admiration. Well, it seems like Lin Ke is very rich. Leo Rio on the side was distracted, perhaps thinking about his future life after getting Hunter's certificate. Now that I see Lin Ke is so famous, my first reaction is that he should be quite rich. Although Leo Rio was right, Lin Ke does have a lot of wealth now. In the crowd, Emi, who had been shaking his head, also stopped making clicking noises. A thoughtful look appeared on that extremely curious face. Where has he heard the name Lin Ke? Immediately Seisai realized his gaffe, and pressed down the question he wanted to ask Lin Ke, and then continued to speak in front of the restless crowd. From now on, the hunter exam officially begins. Final confirmation. In this exam, if you are unlucky or lack the ability, you will be at risk of serious injury or even death. If any candidate wants to leave, you can take the elevator back now. Seisai paused for a moment, then spoke again when no one took action. I know, all 405 people took the first exam. Normally, the number of people should be 406 after Lin Ke also participates. But when Gon and others were talking to Tompa, one unlucky candidate had his arms disabled by Hisoka, who was in a bad mood, so there was one less candidate. After making the announcement, Satsuki turned back, spread out his hands and feet in a swaggering manner, and started running forward in a weird posture like a puppet on strings. For the first exam, please follow me to the location of the second exam. The candidates also took action one after another. Looking from above, the continuous crowd looked like waves moving forward. So, I don't really like this kind of boring running. This is where the importance of the mount comes to light. Lin Ke glanced at the crowd surging next to him and murmured to himself. Hey! Look, what is that? Really? I'm not dazzled, right? Is it magic? How come such a big dog suddenly appears? I saw a big orange dog, like a flash of light, suddenly appeared at the front of the crowd in just one breath, walking side by side with the leader Seisai. The big dog has very fluffy and strong hair, looks good in the hand, has a big tail, and looks majestic with the black stripes on the body. It was the wind speed dog that Lin Ke got not long ago. Lin Ke sits on top of the wind speed dog. In the corner, Hisoka was jogging forward while turning his angle to stare at the wind speed dog, his narrow eyes showing an unknown meaning. Is it a mind beast? In the eyes of other ordinary people, the appearance of wind speed dog can only be regarded as magic. Only the Nin know what it is. Seeing the wind speed dog reminded him of the ferocious beast just now, and presumably it was also Lin Ke's telekinesis beast. Not to mention the giant beast, the aura of the dog under Lin Ke's crotch is even stronger than his. Looking at the leisurely and contented Lin Ke, Hisoka's eyes became more and more fearful. Episode 63. 2-star Ruins Hunter. 1-star Bounty Hunter. Mr. Lin Ke, this is also your mind beast? Looking at the strong-breathing big dog next to him, with hot air flowing every time he exhaled and inhaled, Seisai's eyelids couldn't help but beat wildly. This mind beast has an inexplicable power, and Seisai can't help but feel a little frightened even if he is just standing next to it. Even his running posture seemed uncoordinated for a few moments. What Seisai didn't know was that this was the characteristic effect of wind speed dog. Threatening. Even if it is not deliberately activated, every move of the wind speed dog will reveal a natural sense of intimidation. But at this moment, Satsuki is more concerned about another thing. Weren't all the mind beasts displayed at the Mora's ruins that time? This brings up another terrifying question: how many mind beasts does he have? Seisai felt that Lin Ke was like an infinite treasure box, and something would jump out from time to time that shocked him. His strength is unfathomable. It seems that no one can let Mr. Lin Ke fully demonstrate his strength. Under Seisai's perception, this furry dog running around was much more powerful than himself. Yes, his name is Wind Speed Dog. He is my mount. He is very cute. As he spoke, Lin Ke put his hands on the fluffy dog's head and rubbed it vigorously. The feel is simply top-notch. Woof, woof, woof. Feeling the owner's touch, the wind speed dog also yelled happily, with faint sparks coming out of its mouth. The fluffy and handsome big tail wags like a rattle. Seisai felt that as long as he stayed with Lin Ke, shock would be a common occurrence, and now he was almost numb. Compared to the surprise that wind speed dog brought him, Seisai felt that there was nothing surprising about the fact that Lin Ke was not hunter yet. That's right. Seisai was surprised in front of everyone just now because of this incident. He didn't expect that Lin Ke was not hunter. Like Men Chi before him, in his opinion, such a powerful being as Lin Ke must have been a hunter for a long time. That's why I was shocked when I met Lin Ke in the hunter exam. By the way, Mr. Lin Ke, there is something I can tell you. It turned out that after Pyoern and Seisai jointly reported Lin Ke's deeds, the Hunter Association formulated a plan to pay tribute to Lin Ke. Lin Ke's deeds up to now include: get rid of the thought of death in the Harima ruins called the Death Place. Get rid of the thoughts of death in the ruins of Moros. Kill 2 members of the S-class criminals, the 7 deadly sins, jealousy and fury. These achievements are truly amazing. Therefore, the Hunter Association has formulated rewards for Lin Ke for these achievements. Especially excluding the death thoughts of Harima remains, he has made the greatest contribution among the 3 things. It is undoubtedly an extremely significant contribution to the field of relics. How important is it? so big that the association directly made an exception and promoted Lin Ke to a 2-star ruins hunter. Normally, the condition for an ordinary hunter to become a 1-star hunter is to make a significant contribution in a certain field. On the premise that you are already a 1-star hunter, you must train another 1-star hunter disciple before you can be promoted to a 2-star hunter. But there are exceptions to everything. Lin Ke's contribution was enough to elevate the association to the lofty status of the 2-star ruins hunter. For example, Mo Laowu in the original work was directly promoted from a 1-star hunter to a 3-star hunter because of his outstanding performance in the Chimera Ant Crusade. You must know that Jin, one of the 5 great Nephilis in the world, is also a 2-star ruins hunter. However, according to Lin Ke's estimation, Jin's contribution should be enough to reach the level of Samsung Hunter. It's just that he didn't care about these false claims and didn't report it. These titles are actually nothing, only hard power is the truth. Lin Ke's 2-star ruins hunter may also have the association's intention to win over. Nan can be called an unprecedented level of mind-killing master, and they must be friends. In the world of the ninja, it is too important to eliminate the mind master. A mind-killing master who can easily remove the thoughts of death in a ruin is countless times more important. With the 2-star relic hunter Baoyu in front, the remaining one seems to be a little worse. But this is still an honor that countless hunters will never get in their lifetime, that is, a 1-star bounty hunter. This is the reward for slaying rage and jealousy. This is a bit unexpected by Lin Ke, but he will understand it after thinking about it for a while. Excluding 1/3 of the members of the S-class criminal gang, they can be considered to have made a significant contribution to the bounty field. Criminals of this level are at least in the A-level range, but few people can get rid of them. At the same time, there is a hidden threat inside. The remaining gang members will not just let it go, what they will face next is their revenge. It's not particularly difficult to kill 1 or 2, but what's difficult is that you have to face the retaliation of the entire gang. For example, Silva, the head of the Zoldyck family in the original book, took an order and killed a member of the Phantom Troop. Then came Phantom Troop's revenge, although it wasn't a big problem given his level of strength. But what is worthy of recognition is that he made a loss on this order. The principles of the Zoldyck family are rather strange. In their view, there will be a price for killing anyone. As long as you can afford the price, they dare to take it. If the target's strength exceeds their own, they will deliberately offer a very high price to the employer, which is a disguised rejection of the order. In their view, killing is purposeful, and any task is very purposeful. They will kill whoever they say they want to kill. Others will not be killed if there is no need for one more. In their eyes, you only pay the price of the target. If you kill other people, it will be a loss. The employer only paid to kill 1 member of the Phantom Troop, but in the end, Silva faced the revenge of the entire troop, so he naturally lost money. Since that incident, the entire Zoldyck family has increased the amount of missions for Phantom Troop by a large margin. In disguise, this is the benefit of protecting shortcomings. Others will be more worried when making a move. So Lin Ke's 1-star bounty and hunters are really justifiable, without any moisture at all. Episode 64. Sats? The human-faced ape. 4/4, asking for data. After listening to Seisai's explanation, Lin Ke didn't know what to say. Someone who hasn't passed the hunter exam yet. Inexplicably, he became a 2-star ruins hunter and a 1-star bounty hunter. Is this considered a record for the Hunter Association? I'm afraid there aren't many in the entire Hunter Association who have titles of this level, right? While Lin Ke and Seisai were chatting, Gon and others, who were running honestly behind, also officially met Killua. Leo Rio was panting from exhaustion, and his face was covered with sweat as mature as an uncle. Suddenly, a silver-haired kid appeared next to him with a skateboard at his feet. This leisurely attitude stung Leo Rio, who was running hard. Hey! Boy, what are you doing? Why did you bring the skateboard in? You are cheating. Leo Rio looked angry, pointed at Killua, and yelled. Huh? Then the man in front is riding a dog. Why don't you talk about him? Killua said indifferently, while using Lin Ke as an example to refute Leo Rio. This? Leo Rio didn't know what to say. He also wanted to know where Lin Ke's dog came from. Seeing this, Gon quickly came out to calm the atmosphere. Mr. Examiner just asked us to follow him. There was no requirement not to use tools. Gon's explanation attracted Killua, and the 2 gay friends officially became acquainted. Inside the underground tunnel. As the first exam progressed, more and more people gradually began to lose their physical strength and quit in this extremely long-distance race. The remaining candidates are also in poor condition. Most of them look like hardworking old scalpers, constantly panting and almost reaching the limit of their bodies. There was almost only the sound of chaotic footsteps in the entire dim venue, because everyone was too tired to speak. For them now, every bit of physical strength is extremely precious. An extremely long marathon is certainly difficult, but it tests people's will even more. In the absence of information about how far or how long we have to run, every step we take is a test. The dark tunnel was like an inverted bowl, shrouding them tightly inside, and everyone's mood dropped to the bottom. This is even just the first exam. It's no wonder that only 1 or 2 people pass the hunter exam in almost every class. This shocking elimination rate is followed by exams that are extremely difficult for ordinary people. Finally, in the tired eyes of the candidates, they ushered in a long staircase, and above the staircase was the endpoint exuding light. When one candidate after another passed the last step, they collapsed to the ground as if they were surviving a disaster. His chest was like a large blower, and he continued to gasp for air. His hands and feet were numb, as if even trying to stand up was a luxury. A small number of people with strong physical fitness can rest in a fighting posture without falling directly to the ground. They can also maintain a basic sense of alertness. Even if they pass the first test, they are not careless, but secretly look at the surrounding environment. After the long tunnel run, what appeared in front of everyone was the endless wetland. There was also an extremely wide range of fog not far away, preventing them from seeing the landscape behind them. Behind those fogs, there are fatal crises, one after another. After a while, seeing that the time had come, Seisai looked at the chattering crowd and calmly said, "It's time for the first exam, and the next people arriving here will not be counted as qualified." Following Satsuki's order, the huge stone door connecting the wetland and the underground tunnel quickly sank until it was completely closed. "Hey, wait for me." There were even a few unlucky ones who were about to crawl over, but in the end they still fell short. However, even if such a person can pass the first exam, the probability of passing it later is slim. This place is called Shimao Wetland, and also has a nickname called the Scammer's Nest. Every animal and plant encountered inside is extremely good at setting traps to lure creatures. They are all cunning creatures and often prey on humans. Please be careful. This is the only way to the next venue. If you are cheated, you will die. So you must follow me closely. Seisai calmly stated the precautions, and the faces of the candidates around him became more solemn. Only Leorio wants to complain. "Are you kidding? You know clearly that those creatures are here to deceive you, how could anyone still fall for it?" At this moment, a shout came from the corner next to him. "Don't believe him. He's a liar." A man with brown hair, wearing red clothes, and with marks of intentional injuries on his face, came out tremblingly. He was holding an unconscious monkey in his hand and pointed at Sats, who looked indifferent and shouted loudly, "He is a fake, I am the real examiner. Look clearly. The creature on my hand is the human-faced ape unique to the Shimao wetland. Take a good look, does this guy look exactly like it?" The human-faced ape, as a very representative creature in the Shimao wetland, naturally has the same characteristics as other creatures. It is good at camouflage. It is different from other creatures that disguise themselves through the environment, such as pretending to be fruit trees or grass. With their innate ability, man-faced apes can directly disguise themselves as humans, thereby deceiving people who are difficult to distinguish. Under the words of the human-faced ape, the candidates began to discuss and have different opinions, with some supporting either side. "Isn't that the real examiner? I think what this person said makes sense. These two look so similar, don't they?" A certain bald ninja and Leorio thought so too. Sasiai and Lin Ke remained silent, letting the two human-faced apes act as if they were watching a show. What Seisai thought was that he could use this opportunity to let the candidates understand more thoroughly that the reputation of the den of scammers was not in vain. What Lin Ke thinks is that this human-faced ape really looks like Sats. He really wants to laugh. Episode 65. The Terror of the Scammer's Nest. Ha 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 ha. Satsuki, this human-faced ape really looks like you. Lin Ke teased with a belly laugh while patting Sasiai on the shoulder. He really couldn't hold it in anymore. The man-faced ape pretended to be unconscious and even stuck out half of his tongue. It was really funny. The possibility of directly looking like this is too low. It seems that the human-faced ape has the ability to change its appearance to a certain extent. There is a high probability that this human-faced ape deliberately changed into Satsuki's appearance. Seeing Lin Ke laughing, Seisai held his forehead helplessly, not knowing what to say. This human-faced ape's imitation appearance is indeed first-rate. To be honest, looking at the face that was almost exactly the same as his own, Seisai had an indescribable weird feeling. The reaction between the two caught the attention of the fake examiner, who quickly opened his mouth, apparently thinking of saying something. As a result, before he could speak, 2 playing cards were stabbed at him. In an instant, his eyes rolled white, he immediately cut off his breath, and fell straight back. On the other hand, Seisai on the other end had several playing cards firmly in his hand. The strength of the two makes a judgment. Hisoka leaned back slightly and stood proudly in the crowd, shuffling the playing cards neatly with his hands, making a swishing sound. It seems like this is the real examiner. After all, he is an examiner appointed by the Hunter Association, so he won't be unable to catch a few playing cards. Hisoka narrowed her coquettish eyes and spoke in a pretentious manner. Seisai threw away a few playing cards and responded without changing his expression. I just think this candidate is complimenting me, but I still have to remind you. Forget it this time. If you do the same thing next time, I will treat you as attacking the examiner and can disqualify you from the exam. Okay. Hisoka put away the shuffled playing cards and replied with an indifferent expression. He looked sideways at Lin Ke next to Satsuki, not knowing what he was thinking. Lin Ke suddenly remembered that Hisoka's words were indeed spoken to the wrong person. If he remembered correctly, Hisoka attacked the examiner in the last Hunter exam. It seems like the examiner spoke too arrogantly. While Lin Ke was thinking, another human-faced ape, pretending to be comatose, saw the incident exposed. Without caring too much, the carp jumped up and ran as fast as it could into the distance. A few breaths later, a large group of vultures flew over and took the human-faced apes, killed by playing cards, as today's ration. Although I understand that this is the law of nature, it seems a bit too cruel. Leo Rio wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, stared at this scene blankly, and murmured in a low voice. After experiencing the lesson of human-faced ape disguise, all the candidates present felt that the name of the den of scammers was not in vain. They all worked hard in their hearts and firmly believed that they must follow Sasai closely. Otherwise, the current human-faced ape will be their fate later. After scanning for a week, Sats suddenly stepped forward. Please follow me closely. Seeing that the examiner had already set off, the candidates, regardless of whether they had had enough rest, kept their faces tense and gritted their teeth to keep up with Satsuki's pace. You can rest at any time. If you miss Sats, there is only one outcome for the candidates who are mostly ordinary people: death. Lin Ke was still riding the wind speed dog leisurely beside Sasai. It seems that because of the intimidating characteristics of the wind speed dog, Lin Ke found that no creature in the Shimile wetland dared to approach him. If the cover of the water mist is removed, people will find that monsters deliberately avoid the leader Lin Ke. Madly rushing to both sides, towards the unsuspecting candidates behind. Lin Ke and Sasai took advantage of the situation and went straight to the second venue, without any hindrance. Others don't have such a comfortable experience. As the team went deeper into the wetland, the surrounding fog became thicker and thicker, and more people gradually fell behind. Huh? What is this? How come there are such big strawberries? One candidate looked at the strawberry fruit shaking in the fog and couldn't help but exclaimed. The strawberry in front of him was as big as a human head, something the man had never seen before. Although he was curious, the man still obeyed Seisai's reminder and prepared to avoid the strawberry of unknown origin. Unfortunately, it's too late. Boom boom boom. A huge turtle suddenly emerged from the ground, stretched out its long neck and bit the candidate in one bite. Ah! Help me! A miserable wailing sound came, and after a few breaths it completely disappeared. Before the candidates around him could react, the man had already entered the turtle's belly. Misty strawberry turtle. Like the man-faced ape, it is also a unique species in the Shimile wetland. It looks like a red hard turtle shell with a long neck, like a brachiosaurus. The most unique thing is that there are strawberry trees on its turtle shell that look like scarecrows. The misty strawberry turtle will bury its body in the ground, leaving only the strawberry trees exposed. In the thick fog, strawberry trees dance with the wind. If you don't look carefully, you will think that it is a person running. When people approach it without much precaution, it will suddenly jump out and swallow the person's body in one gulp. This is just one of countless fraudulent creatures. Episode 66. Minchi, long time no see. Sleeping mushrooms that emit countless drowsy spores when stepped on. Rockskin frogs are disguised as large rocks. As long as someone passes by at an unpleasant speed, they will open their bloody mouths and swallow the person whole without chewing. The deceptive crow has a special speech organ that can speak human language, just like a parrot, but it is full of lies. They will imitate Sats's voice and weave lies one after another, allowing people with low intelligence to fall into the traps they have prepared in advance. The 367 candidates who passed through the underground tunnel are now decreasing at a rapid rate. One after another, people stayed far away in the Shimao wetland. Listening to the screams coming from behind not far away, accompanied by the roars of countless monsters, Lin Ke thought to himself. Passing this Shimao wetland is not necessarily the exam with the highest elimination rate. But it must be the exam with the highest mortality rate. Here, as long as the team is dead. This fog with extremely low visibility is like a huge man-eating monster, eating countless candidates until not even the dregs are left. Biscayne Forest Park. As the official second examination venue, the park stands at the end of the journey through the Shimao wetland. Outside the park, there is a Western-style wall built around it, with an unpretentious large iron gate in the center. After Lin Ke and Seisai arrived here, they walked through a winding path, and the number of candidates gathered here gradually increased. It can still be seen that the number of candidates has dropped sharply. First, there was the ultra-long marathon in the underground tunnel, and then there was the journey through the danger-ridden swindler's nest. Under the almost continuous high mental tension, the candidates who were able to persist here also collapsed to the ground. Only the abnormal people like Liao Liao could stand on the ground like nothing happened. The hunter exam seemed to take physical exertion into consideration, and the second exam that was immediately arranged had nothing to do with endurance. It also gives people a certain amount of time to recover their exhausted physical strength. At this time, there are only 149 candidates left. In the first exam alone, 256 candidates were admitted. Many of them died in the Shimao wetland just now. Seeing that the time had come, Seisai, who was standing in front of the big iron gate, touched his curly beard and said calmly, "Thank you for your hard work, the second exam is next, so I will accompany you everywhere." After speaking, Seisai nodded slightly to Lin Ke who was standing aside, and then stepped into the depths of the forest with that swaggering walking posture again. At this moment, Lin Ke was standing there alone, and there was no trace of the wind-speed dog, he had already put it away. Lin Ke glanced at the figure in the forest, a smile appeared in his eyes. Other candidates thought Satsuki left like this. Only he who had read the original work knew. When Sats went to the forest, he would hide in a tree and observe the second exam. It seems that President Netero has arranged for Seisai to supervise Minchi, to see if he has acted out of line. After all, Minchi's character is prone to paranoia. It's also possible that he just wanted to watch the show, so maybe he didn't leave directly? As expected by Lin Ke, Seisai walked a short distance into the forest and jumped onto the branch of a certain tree. Then he took out the telescope that had been prepared from his waist, observed everyone in the dark, and murmured. The next one is that legendary figure, Minchi. It seems like there may only be 10 people. No, it's possible that only 5 people can pass. Just after Sats left for a while, the large iron door in front of everyone slowly opened to both sides, revealing the layout inside. As the door opened, the hearts of the candidates became tense again. We are already here, how can we relax? The first thing that caught everyone's eyes were the tables, with some special kitchen utensils deliberately placed on them. These were the tools to be used in the second exam. At the front is a large stage, on which sits a young-looking, petite woman. It's Minchi. Different from the revealing clothes in the original work, perhaps due to some attitude change, Minchi's dressing style began to become conservative. The upper body is an ordinary white shirt, hiding the full moon-like breasts inside, making it look bulging. The lower body is a pair of long blue jeans, which makes her slender legs more straight. When people raised their eyes higher, they suddenly discovered that there was a man as big as a hill standing behind the woman. The yellow clothes on his body made his round body look like a balloon. Even the super plus-size clothes couldn't completely cover his protruding belly, and part of it was still exposed. The round face looks cute and naive, and there is an inexplicable sense of joy. When candidates poured into the venue like a tide, Minchi kept scanning the crowd over and over again. He couldn't wait to see that familiar figure inside, his green pupils full of anticipation. Finally, when she scanned for the second time, she saw the person who was smiling and waving to her, Lin Ke. Lin Ke. You are really here. Minchi smiled with satisfaction as if he had discovered a long-awaited treasure. She was so happy that she stood up from her seat and shouted loudly in the direction of Lin Ke. Minchi, long time no see. Lin Ke nodded and smiled. He was also happy for his friends to get together. Minchi only heard from him that he would come to take the hunter exam, and she was not sure that she would be able to meet Lin Ke. Lin Ke is different. As someone who has set up the plot, he naturally knows that Minchi will come here as an examiner. The exchange of greetings between the two once again shocked the shocked candidates. Hey, is it true? Does he know this examiner? No, he actually knows 2 examiners in a row. Who is he? There is an inside story, there must be an inside story. There was a commotion among the candidates as if there was a magnitude 10 earthquake. For a while, people were discussing heatedly, either expressing shock or raising questions. Lin Ke's identity becomes even more mysterious in their hearts. Although Seisai, who was hiding in a tree far away, could not hear their voices, he could still analyze them from their behavior and even lip reading. Mr. Lin Ke, does he even know that gourmet hunter Minchi? As expected of Mr. Lin Ke. Sai couldn't help but sigh silently when he saw the 2 people greeting each other with smiles and smiles. It seems that Lin Ke is much surprised. This kind of little thing doesn't surprise him anymore. Noting that this was not the right moment for a chat with friends, Minchi gave Lin Ke an apologetic smile. Immediately she faced the crowd and said, "Hello, candidates who passed the first exam. Welcome to the second exam. I am the examiner, Minchi." Minchi stretched back slightly and said confidently, "I am the examiner, Buhara. Golyalu." Before the crowd could react, a loud roar came from behind Minchi. "Buhara, are you very hungry?" Minchi looked back slightly and said helplessly. Buhara touched the back of his head, showed an awkward smile, and said in a slightly complaining tone, "Yeah, I'm so hungry that my chest touches my back." "So, the content of the second exam is cooking," Minchi announced loudly. Minchi's speech also shocked the candidates present. Is it actually a cooking test? Wait a minute, we are here to take the hunter exam, why are we asked to cook? Takuman, a wrestler with yellow hair and a body as fat as a trumpet, said angrily. In his opinion, as the hunter exam that everyone takes, it is really unreasonable to select such a partial exam as cooking. Especially since he knows nothing about cooking. Minchi twisted her small waist, put her hands on her hips, and said confidently. Because we are gourmet hunters. The exams are naturally related to gourmet food. Buhara behind him continued. The specific content of this exam is to roast a whole pig. As long as it is a pig from this Biscayne forest. Although Buhara says so, there is actually only one type of pig in the entire forest. The second exam has officially begun. As Minchi shouted, people poured in from the gate, and then poured out from the gate again. Everyone is scrambling to be the first to catch the wild boar. In their view, Buhasi's body shape was simply too outstanding, regardless of the situation. The problem was that Minchi's petite body didn't look like she could eat everyone's cooking creations. This means that those who are lagging behind are likely to be eliminated without even having a chance to taste it. Everyone swarmed towards the forest, but Lin Ke stayed where he was, which was particularly eye-catching. The venue suddenly became empty. Lin Ke stood quietly in front of a table and suddenly snapped his fingers. In an instant, Gardevoir was like a ghost, suddenly appearing next to Lin Ke, and then quickly disappearing. When Gardevoir appeared again, there was already a freshly dead wild boar on the table in front of Lin Ke. The full name of the wild boar is Horned wild boar, and it has a big reputation. It is said to be the most ferocious pig in the 6 continents. The hooligan-nosed wild pig is pink in color and has a big pig nose that looks like a leather toe. This pig's snout is so hard that it can break even rocks. The pig's weakness is also obvious, that is, the fragile forehead, and the hard nose evolved to protect the forehead. At this moment, Minchi also came to Lin Ke, looking at him with a smile on his lips. Are you surprised that I appeared here as an examiner? While handling the wild boar with the sharp knife provided on the table, Lin Ke raised the corner of his mouth and responded. It's a bit surprising indeed. Lin Ke thought to himself, but it might not be the same as the surprise you thought Minchi had. What surprised Lin Ke was the change in Minchi's clothing style. It seems that maybe it was a butterfly effect caused by himself. Then Minchi started talking about the stories she had experienced since the two separated. Lin Ke plays the role of a listener and does not stop moving his hands at the same time. In a few seconds, the wild boar's internal organs and other parts were cleaned and prepared to be put on the rack for baking. I've said so much, what about you? Where did you go later? Are you still staying in the Samok Desert? Menchi stared at Lin Ke, who was constantly flipping the grill and roasting the wild boar, and asked curiously. Oh, you will know soon. Lin Ke smiled slightly and didn't say it directly, but kept it secret. See. Gung suddenly jumped out from Lin Ke's shadow, and at the same time he didn't forget to make a face for Menchi. Just like the scene in the desert that night. Hey, Gung, how about you too? Long time no see 543. Gung grimace seemed to hit Menchi's soft heart. He felt that Gung was extremely cute. A pair of eyes looked at Gung with a smile. What Ling Menchi didn't expect was that the key point was still behind. Gung grinned, and a crystal-clear crystal bottle jumped out of it and fell steadily into Lin Ke's hand. Guess what is this? Lin Ke opened the lid of the bottle, gently poured out some particles, and poured them carefully onto the roasting wild boar. After the white crystals are baked, cracks gradually appear on the surface of the shell, and drops of bright red liquid flow out, with a strong fragrance. Just a slight smell will make you feel like you are in a pleasant hot spring. Menchi's green eyes widened in an instant, staring straight at the crystal bottle in Lin Ke's hand. Could it be that it's Kira red volcanic salt? So you went to Kira volcano later? That's right. That's it. This thing is quite hard to get, but I searched there for several days before I found this small half bottle. Lin Ke glanced at the crystal bottle, revealing dissatisfaction in his words. Menchi didn't know what to say now. This was the first time she had seen so much Kira red volcanic salt. You must know that Kira red volcanic salt is very rare. Even Lin Ke is not satisfied with this. I have to say that the effect of this salt is really not exaggerated. Not long after it was sprinkled on, a charming fragrance burst out. It was so strong that almost the entire venue was filled with fragrance, which naturally attracted Buhara on the stage. Buhara wiped the saliva from the corner of his mouth and subconsciously moved closer to Lin Ke. As the roasting of the whole pig came to an end, Lin Ke gave Menchi a look. Menchi understood immediately. Spreading his hands, several dinner plates made of mind energy appeared on the table in the blink of an eye. Menchi's modernized dinner plates can preserve the freshness of dishes to a certain extent and control the loss of flavor as much as possible. If it was just an ordinary roasted whole pig, there would be no need for Menchi to make such a big show of it. But with the blessing of Lin Ke's precious volcanic salt, this roasted whole pig has now become an extremely high-quality delicacy. There are so many delicacies that Hunter may not have tasted before. Excellent dishes must be paired with corresponding tableware. The ordinary dinner plates on the table are no longer worthy of the quality of this roasted whole pig. Mr. Lin Ke, your craftsmanship looks really good. This ordinary wild boar makes your crafts much more advanced. Buhara stood aside with a straight face, praising Lin Ke, and kept swallowing saliva. Logically speaking, as an examiner, he should be allowed to taste this dish, but Buhara was afraid that Lin Ke would be reluctant to part with it. Episode 67. Is one person qualified? Just smelling the smell without letting yourself taste it is simply a form of torture for yourself, more uncomfortable than killing yourself. So Buhara came to Lin Ke, searching for words to praise Lin Ke, hoping that he could give him a taste. Okay, Buhara, stop, you must be involved in this. Lin Ke divided the roasted whole pig into plates, smiled and said, I am still thinking hard about what words of praise I can say. Not to mention anything else, even the smack in the corner of his mouth revealed his intention to eat. Ha ha ha, thank you so much Lin Ke. Buhara touched his round belly and thanked a little embarrassedly. At this time, the candidates who discovered the weakness of the wild boar also returned to the venue, carrying their trophies. As soon as they returned to the venue, an extremely strong fragrance penetrated their noses. Looking in the direction of the aroma, it was the roasted whole pig in Lin Ke's hand. The wrestler Tumen, who was still complaining just now, couldn't help but swallowed wildly, and his eyes unconsciously glanced towards Lin Ke. It seems that even if you can't eat, you still want to satisfy your eyes. The most outrageous thing is that almost everyone acted in unison with him, and the scene was extremely weird for a time. Lin Ke and the three were ready to enjoy the food. Others ignored their own dishes and turned their attention to Lin Ke. It's like being hit by a midderman and being controlled by someone. Lin Ke and others paid no attention to it, but concentrated on enjoying the hard-won food. The horn-nosed wild boar, brought back by Gardevoir, is considered to be the largest among its kind. Although even if you give out a portion to satisfy Buhara, it will still satisfy Minchi and Lin Ke. Holding the large plate 517 specially made by Minchi in his hands, Buhara, who was so hungry and thirsty, could no longer control his appetite. The wisps of meaty fragrance were like playful elves, teasing him back and forth on the tip of his nose. Buhara suddenly lifted the plate, opened his mouth far larger than an ordinary person, let every inch of meat on the plate fall into his mouth, and began to chew wildly. Just a few breaths after he fell, Buhara's narrow eyes, which were originally covered by fat, suddenly widened in disbelief. My body started to tremble constantly, not out of fear, but because it was so delicious. Under the golden and crispy skin is extremely tender pork. When you bite it gently, the hot and fragrant gravy will burst into your mouth. Especially with the addition of Kira red volcanic salt, this pork tastes much more fragrant. Every bite is like being in a hot spring with the characteristics of Kira volcano. Waves of warm currents will flow through your body, making you extremely comfortable. Kira red volcanic salt has a unique flavor and is especially suitable for mixing with pork or various barbecued meats. It can be said that it has successfully raised the deliciousness of this roasted whole pig to countless levels. As a gourmet hunter for so long, even Buhara has not tasted this level of gourmet food many times. Every chew will bring him the ultimate experience. Buhara can feel that every part of his body is cheering for the delicious food. Tasty! Under the extreme stimulation of delicious food, Buhara made a deafening sound of praise. The sound even startled Seisai, who was secretly observing from a distance. Not to mention the candidates who were closer, Buhara's shouts woke them up. I am still taking the hunter exam. You have to complete the cooking task quickly. In their opinion, the rich aroma comes from the wild pig, and they thought that if they roasted it themselves, it would have the same effect as Lin Ke. Many people even have the idea of baking it to make themselves full. Lin Ke's roasted whole pig successfully aroused the greed of a lot of people. Minchi and Lin Ke's reactions were not as exaggerated as Buhara's, but they were equally surprised by the fusion of Kira red volcanic salt and bald-nosed wild boar. The two are added together successfully to achieve the effect of 1 + 1 being greater than 2. Savoring the pork in their mouths, the two of them showed intoxicated expressions, and their cheeks even looked slightly red under the influence of the volcanic salt. As if a switch was triggered, his body suddenly became active, and a numbing feeling spread throughout his body. The flow of thought energy on the body also suddenly accelerated a bit. The whole person seemed to be in a volcanic zone, with an erupting volcano in front of him. As pieces of pork were stuffed into their mouths, until the knife and fork were inserted into the empty plate, the two of them realized that they had inadvertently eaten the whole roasted pig. Not to mention the hill-like hair on the other side, he had swallowed his portion in one gulp from the very beginning. He stayed in place for a long time, looking like he was recalling the taste just now. I solemnly declare that you are qualified. Minchi picked up the circled sign and said playfully. Full marks. Buhara also picked up the brand that symbolizes qualifications. In his opinion, this brand is not enough to express the deliciousness of Lin Ke's dishes. It would be reasonable to have a full score brand. Time passed bit by bit, and slowly some candidates completed their works. But the effect is not satisfactory. Leo Rio looked at the whole roasted pig that was as black as charcoal, and his face became as dark as it. How could this happen? Why did it get burnt when it was grilled? Leo Rio put his head in his hands, crying and crying. Because he was always thinking about finishing the roasted whole pig quickly so that he could pass before the examiner was full. But Leo Rio, who usually had no relevant experience, was too anxious and forcibly increased the intensity of the flames, roasting the wild boar with the fire. Needless to say the consequences, CDCJ, naturally the outside became coke. Fortunately for Leo Rio, there are not many people in as bad a situation as he is. There are many candidates like Leo Rio who are smart and want to cook the exam quickly. Basically, the outside skin is charred, and the inside meat is still half-cooked and still bleeding vaguely. Suddenly, many candidates felt as if they were mourning for their wives, and their faces were as gloomy as their roasted whole pigs. In their opinion, the hope of passing the exam is extremely slim. With Lin Ke's Wiu in front of them, people thought that the roasted wild pig would be fragrant and delicious, with endless aftertaste. Comparing their half-baked works with other people's finished products, they are just like history. I'm afraid Lin Ke himself didn't expect that his casual move would make other candidates use his own work as a standard. Do you want to bake an ordinary wild boar with the same effect as if it was sprinkled with pure red volcanic salt? It's better to go to sleep, maybe it will be in your dreams. However, not all candidates made mistakes, there were still a few who made decent roasted whole pigs. Kurapika held her chin with her right hand, frowning and staring at the roasted whole pig in front of her. Unlike the bitter-faced Leo Rio, his roasted whole pig is done step by step, and the heat is quite right. There are still some issues, but at least the food looks edible. What makes Kurapika confused is that his own wild pig does not have the same aroma as Lin Ke's when roasted. Only the ordinary aroma of roasted whole pig wafts out from the front. Kurapika's eyes wandered and she subconsciously looked in the direction of Lin Ke, where there were some pig bones on the table. From the highly recognizable nose bones, it can be seen that it is indeed a wild pig with a big nose. So, did Lin Ke add any extra condiments? Kurapika's guess is already close to the truth. Among the candidates, she is considered to be the group with the highest IQ, and she successfully discovered something was wrong. Finally, after a torturous inner struggle, a warrior was born, carrying his own roasted whole pig on stage like a work of art, without hesitation. Unqualified. Minchi's forehead was covered with black lines, his eyebrows were twisted, and he firmly raised the cross sign. Just one look at her and she was deemed unqualified. Based on its appearance, if you didn't say it was a roasted whole pig, I would have thought it was coal in the shape of a pig. Minchi criticized the warrior without mercy, making the man ashamed, and then carried the roasted whole pig down. Seeing this, Bohara breathed a sigh of relief. The man took the initiative to carry it away, so he didn't have to taste it by himself. After tasting the divine deliciousness of Lin Ke, Bohara looked at these crooked melons and cracked dates that were really hard to eat. This can also be regarded as the influence caused by Lin Ke. Originally, Bohara would still take advantage of him even if the opponent did not do well. Although Minchi cannot pass the test, if one of the two examiners passes, the examinee will still save some face. Now that they have eaten Lin Ke's roasted whole pig, neither Minchi nor Bohara, who always refuses to refuse anyone who comes, are reluctant to taste these defective products. Standing on the branch, Seisai, who looked like a voyeur at first glance, secretly thought something was wrong. Although things had some twists and turns, they eventually developed in the direction he expected. Under the lens of the telescope, each candidate was rejected outright by Minchi, and they were all unqualified. Buhasi also realizes that there is something wrong, so he will taste the roasted whole pig that Kurapika has seen before, and then give a passable evaluation. Of course, this is far from the full score he gave Lin Ke. The problem is that he alone is not enough to pass. The rule is that both he and Minchi must be satisfied to pass. Lin Ke crossed his arms and stood quietly in front of his desk, taking in the full view of the reactions of the people in the venue. As the last candidate was labeled unqualified by Minchi, the venue suddenly fell into deathly silence. Just like the calm before the storm, everyone is holding a breath of anger in their hearts, like a powder keg that is about to explode. What's more, some of them have clenched their fists and have thoughts of taking action. The situation is about to get out of control. Episode 68. Dream Egg, meeting Netero for the first time. Hey, Minchi, only Lin Ke is passing through. Doesn't this seem a bit bad? Bohara lowered his head slightly and asked the thoughtful Minchi with a troubled face. In fact, Minchi herself feels a little regretful now. Ever since she saw Lin Ke's excellent roasted whole pig, even if she wanted to give the candidates a hard time, she couldn't pass the test in her heart. The level called Food Pursuit. At the same time, under a slight impulse, only Lin Ke passed the test. Minchi lowered his eyes and didn't know what to do for a moment. She watched the candidates' reactions in her eyes. She was afraid that it would cause public outrage, and then her qualification as an examiner would be revoked, right? Well. Lin Ke shook his head, sighed softly, and immediately walked towards the stage. Lin Ke's sudden move attracted the attention of everyone present, and they all stared at Lin Ke, wondering what he was going to do. At the same time, Seisai also noticed Lin Ke's behavior. After thinking for a while, he stopped calling the phone to notify the association. Lin Ke. Minchi looked at Lin Ke, who came to him and murmured in a low voice, with a hint of embarrassment in his tone. It's okay, I'm just here to provide you with a better solution. Lin Ke heard that Minchi was a little confused now, chuckled, and slowly explained his method. That's it, you all agree with this proposal, right? Minchi and Bohara nodded obediently, like obedient kindergarten children. Very good. Lin Ke sighed with satisfaction, and then turned to face all the candidates. But his target is not these confused-eyed candidates. I saw Lin Ke waving in the direction of the forest in the distance, showing an action to let people come over. The target hasn't been reached yet, but the candidates in the audience started to discuss it heatedly. What is that man doing? Why is he waving into the air? Is he waving to someone? Soon they knew who Lin Ke was calling. Tada, tada. Looking in the direction of the door, a familiar figure appeared in front of everyone. Still the same formal suit, the same short slightly curly hair, and the same curly beard. That is. Kurapika's pupils shrank and she murmured to herself. Mr. Examiner? The person who appeared in front of everyone was the examiner of the first test, Seisai. Hello everyone, we meet again. Seisai waved to greet the stunned candidates on both sides of the road, and walked straight to Lin Ke without stopping. I don't know why Seisai always feels something is weird. I left, I came again. That's right, the one Lin Ke called was Seisai, who was originally watching the show. Originally, Seisai was still wondering if he was being suspicious. How could Lin Ke know that he was still in the forest and still paying attention to this place? It wasn't until he saw Lin Ke's mouth moving slightly, making a saucy mouth shape, that he was completely sure that he was calling him. Although Seisai couldn't understand Lin Ke's purpose for a moment, he still strode over. Seeing Seisai's arrival, Lin Ke nodded slightly, then glanced at Minchi and the others, and walked straight back to his table. This series of actions shocked all the candidates, and the anger that had been accumulated disappeared a lot. First, Lin Ke walked up and whispered to the two examiners, and then the previous examiner came back here inexplicably? In the midst of everyone's confusion, Minchi took 2 steps forward, took a deep breath, and shouted. First of all, I'd like to say sorry. The results of this exam are invalid, and everyone will go to another location to take the second exam again. There will be a special airship to take away everyone present. As soon as he finished speaking, Minchi motioned to Seisai on the side to notify the airship prepared in advance to pick up the candidates. Saucy finally understood why Lin Ke called him here. It turned out to be the toolman responsible for calling the airship. From this point of view, Mr. Lin Ke actually knew that he had accepted the task of the association and was responsible for monitoring Minchi and others. Did he go out of his way? Did you even guess the airship that was prepared in advance? Guesses came to mind, but Seisai didn't stop moving his hands, notifying the airship to come over. The candidates present were stunned by Minchi's words. Why did they suddenly change the venue and retake the exam? But it was only a temporary discomfort. Immediately, everyone realized that this was the association's remedy for the exam. Feeling the sincerity of the association, everyone no longer wanted to vent their anger and gave everyone a chance to start over. It didn't take long for the airship to arrive above the venue, with the logo of the Hunter Association printed on both sides of the airship. This is an airship that is part of the review committee in the Hunter Association. When the airship landed, 1 candidate and 3 examiners boarded it. Halfway up the mountain. It is famous because there happens to be a huge crack that divides the entire mountain into 2 almost completely symmetrical halves. The rift in front of you is the spider vulture's nest. All you have to do is get the eggs inside and cook them. That is, hard-boiled eggs. Minchi stood in front of everyone and introduced the tasks of the new second exam in detail. That's right. This is what Lin Ke came up with for Minchi and the others. It is said that Lin Ke came up with the method, but in fact, he just told Minchi the method in the original book before Minchi and the candidates completely conflicted. The effect brought by Lin Ke is equivalent to replacing the appearance of President Netero in the plot. Naturally, President Netero has no chance to appear. Under the coordination of Lin Ke, although we finally arrived at the middle of the mountain, it was already the optimal solution at the time. In order to make up for her mistake just now, Minchi jumped down and picked an egg herself after explaining the precautions. Minchi is holding a spider vulture egg as big as a human head, which is suitable for all candidates to start taking action. So then people jumped into the Great Rift Valley one by one like dumplings. If an uninformed person saw it, they might think it was some kind of group behavior. Lin Ke had already passed the original exam, so he didn't have to take it, but he also wanted to taste the egg. As a Pokémon Master, he naturally doesn't need to imitate those candidates, he has to jump down and pick it up himself. Lin Ke spread his hands in front of his chest, and the next second a spider vulture egg with a smooth appearance and excellent appearance appeared in his hands. Gardevoir moved very quickly, handing the egg to Lin Ke in 2 teleportations, and no one present even noticed what happened. Only a few nuns noticed the fluctuations of mind energy, glanced at Link, and then looked away. Spider vulture eggs are called dream eggs. What does this egg that makes people eat like crazy taste like? After a while, the egg in front of Lin Ke was already cooked. He gently peeled off the shell, and the first thing he saw was the crystal clear egg white. Then the smell of hard-boiled eggs with a slight fragrance came to the nose, and Lin Ke also vaguely smelled a butter-like aroma from it. When you open your mouth and take a bite, the elastic egg white on the outside looks like a thick layer of jelly. It tastes great. Then a warm current rushed into the mouth, which was the uncooked and solidified egg yolk. This was Minchi's deliberate reminder. It is said that the egg will taste better if it is in a liquid shape. The egg yolk tastes so delicious and has so many layers of texture that Lin Ke can't even think of a suitable word to describe it. I can only say that this spider vulture egg is worthy of the name dream egg. When Lin Ke finished the eggs, the candidates also tasted the fruits of their hard work. Both men and women, young and old, almost all have the same expression, intoxicated. After eating this unique hard-boiled egg, the candidates' fatigue from the whole day seemed to be gone. Seeing the happy scene of people, Minchi also showed a happy expression, walked to Lin Ke's side, and said sincerely, "Lin Ke, thank you." After this unique exam, the candidates seemed to have some understanding of the meaning of food hunters' existence. I have a little taste of what they are pursuing. After everyone finished eating the hard-boiled eggs, the sky was getting late, and only the setting sun left a purple glow in the sky. This also seemed to signal the perfect end to Hunter's first day of exams. The candidates all came to the airship to take a night's rest, and they would rush to take the third exam the next morning. On the first day alone, after 2 exams, the remaining number of people increased from 405 to about 40. People are resting in their rooms and enjoying this hard-won leisure time. Except Lin Ke. Ho 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 ho, I've wanted to meet you for a long time. Lin Ke. Netero sat on the leather sofa, gently picked up a cup of tea on the table, and spoke slowly. Both each other, President, I have also wanted to meet you for a long time. Lin Ke sat directly opposite Netero and carefully looked at the old man in front of him. President Netero's hairstyle is rather strange, with a bald circle around the top and a ponytail on top, which looks refreshing. There is a long white beard on the chin, and the strange thing is that the tail of the beard is curved like a scorpion spike. There are long earlobes on both sides, which look more kind and kind. He is wearing a specially customized robe, and the overall color is blue and white, which is the same as when he appeared in the original work. From the anime, President Netero seems to have only 3 outfits. One is the ordinary clothes in front of him, which is also the most common. The second type is an ordinary sports t-shirt, used to move the body. The last and most special piece of clothing is the heart t-shirt. There are related legends about this costume even among the sages. It is said that Chairman Netero will wear this dress when he has absolute faith. The reason why it is a legend is that almost no one has actually seen it with their own eyes. After all, President Netero was already a person from the last century. Please give me flowers. After becoming the president of the Hunter Association, he rarely had the opportunity to act in public. Perhaps colleagues who were at the same time as President Netero, such as gourmet hunter Lin Ke, have seen the president wearing a heart t-shirt. Today he figured out Seisai's identity. He was responsible for supervising Minchi and the others. Then use him to summon the airship. In the original work, Seisai saw Minchi start to dig into the bull's horns, and when he was about to arouse public outrage, he notified the Hunter Association. Only a few minutes passed between the time he informed the association and the arrival of the airship. It is impossible for you to say that the airship flew from the association headquarters on the spot. The only way to say it is that the airship was already nearby. Then this leads to another question. Is Chairman Netero on this airship right now? At that time, Netero jumped directly from the airship and appeared in front of the public with an extremely shocking move. In front of people. Since the airship is on standby nearby, the president should stay on it. With this idea in mind, Lin Ke took the initiative to ask Seisai and received an accurate answer. This was the first meeting between the old and the young. He stared at President Netero, who looked old but still looked lively and energetic. Lin Ke couldn't help but sigh in his heart, finally seeing a living person. What Netero didn't know was that Lin Ke's desire to meet him took longer than he thought. Lin Ke wanted to see this old man with his own eyes as early as when he was watching cartoons on Blue Star. Lin Ke likes many characters in Hunter. Especially the battle between the president and the Ant King left a very deep impression on him. Lin Ke saw a human martial artist's desire to pursue the pinnacle of martial arts. Even now, he could see the fighting spirit in President Netero's eyes. As for who is the target? There was no one else in the office except myself at the moment. Thinking about it, the president said he wanted to see me for a long time. Apparently after the last battle with fury and jealousy, Seisai or Piorn reported his information to the association. Are you happy to see Hunting Heart? Lin Ke took a sip of tea and said calmly. After hearing this, Netero's facial expression froze, then he reached out and stroked his slender beard, and laughed loudly. Ho ho ho, this old man like me really can't even hide his eyes like this? So, what do you think? In the first sentence, Netero still looked playful and smiling, but in the next sentence, his expression became serious. He is inviting a fight to Lin Ke. It can be said that Netero has been tirelessly pursuing the so-called martial arts since he was a child. When he was young, he set a goal of punching 10,000 times a day with full concentration, and he has stuck to it to this day. From being exhausted after a long day, the rest can be completed in less than an hour. The reward for all this hard work is the ultimate punching speed and impressive strength. When he was young, he had already conquered all martial arts schools in the world. Later he became known as the strongest person in the world. Served as the president of the Hunter Association and taught senior nen masters such as Bisji. The Xingyuan school has also become famous all over the world, and has been dubbed the strongest school at the same time. Although time is not forgiving, most of the current presidents can no longer claim the title of the strongest in the world, but they still have world-class strength. This is the truth. Name, Isaac Netero. Strength, normal S-, sympathy, after spending a long time adjusting the state, S. Nen, 100 styles Guanyin, enhancer. It can hit the opponent crazily with extremely fast fists, causing the same effect as being hit by the 1,000-armed Guanyin. Based on years of accumulated martial arts experience, Netero has developed 100 boxing styles, among which Type 0 is the trump card and has the strongest attack power. Normal S-, the most serious state can reach S level. This is what was once the strongest foundation in the world, even many years after its peak period. The fact that Baishir Guanyin is an enhancer, not a manipulator, is also in line with Lin Ke's idea. In the comics, when Netero rode the dragon head released by Gino and was taken away with the Ant King, Catwoman, as the third bodyguard, naturally wanted to stop Netero. As a result, she was knocked away by Netero's Baishir Guanyin. At this time, Catwoman's original words were, "An attack appeared at a completely impossible angle with the direction of the fall." What is this? It can be seen from this that President Netero's 100-style Guanyin is not a materialized product. It is mainly because of the better expression on the screen that a Guanyin statue was painted. The real situation is that President Netero attacks with extremely fast fist speed, as if he is facing Guanyin with thousands of hands. Another reason is obvious. As the strongest man in the world, who has been practicing immersed mind for many years, President Netero is obviously the representative of enhancer. Naturally, manipulator Nen, which is far away from enhancer, will not be developed. The above are all speculations by the author. The old thief Togashi did not accurately state the president's information, so he cannot be 100% sure that it is correct, but Catwoman's words do indeed appear in the comics. 69 Lieber was shocked. Is it the rumored Lin Ke? 1/2, please subscribe. Boom. Lin Ke put the teacup on the table and made a crisp sound in the room that was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. I think so too. It's just, not now. Seeing President Netero's mouth open with a smile, Lin Ke's second sentence made him put his smile back again. I'm on the airship now. I can't stretch my arms and legs, and I can't get enough of a fight. There's a continuous sea of water below the airship, and there's not even a place to stay. President, you shouldn't be satisfied with just a few tricks, right? Seeing this, President Netero completely restrained the fighting spirit in his eyes, and the old god tasted the tea on the ground. What Lin Ke said makes sense. The current venue is not suitable for the battle between them, so he has to endure it. Lin Ke drank the tea in the cup in one gulp, stood up and opened the door to leave. The corners of his mouth were slightly raised and he said thoughtfully, I won't keep you waiting too long. Then Lin Ke closed the door and walked straight out. Netero stared at himself reflected in the tea water, with a glint in his eyes. Won't you keep me waiting too long? Midline horizontal ellipsis midline horizontal ellipsis midline horizontal ellipsis midline horizontal ellipsis. Lin Ke actually didn't finish half of his sentence. He was very greedy for the experience after defeating the president. I can't beat the t-shirt president for the time being, but the ordinary president still has a good chance. I don't know how much experience an S-level expert can bring to Pokémon. Not long after Lin Ke left, President Netero slowly stood up and left the room. He needed to vent the fighting spirit aroused by Lin Ke, so he found a few children to play volleyball on the Hunter Association's airship. In a conference room used to entertain guests, today's 3 examiners were enjoying delicious food and chatting. Hey, how many people do you think will pass the Hunter exam this time? Lin Ke asked the 2 of them curiously, still holding the spoon tightly in his hand. Well, it's hard to say. The 880 quality of this year's candidates is obviously much higher than in previous years. But I can be sure that one person will definitely pass. Satsuki twirled the end of his beard and said pointedly. Lin Ke. ×2. Seisai and Lin Ke seemed to have a clear understanding of each other, and they said the expected name in unison. If it is Mr. Lin Ke, he will definitely pass the test easily. Saucy's words were full of trust in Lin Ke, which made him not believe it. Unlike Lin Ke, Seisai had witnessed Lin Ke releasing Bangila with his own eyes. If you can't pass the Hunter exam even with that kind of strength, then I'm afraid not many people in the world can pass it. Seeing that Saucy's words were full of praise for Lin Ke, Lin Ke was a little surprised. Thinking of her experience during the day, she felt a little curious. It seems that Mr. Seisai and Lin Ke know each other? In the morning, Lin Ke just told Lin Ke that Seisai had not gone far and was still observing here in the forest. He could call Seisai over to rescue him, but he did not directly say that he knew Seisai. Otherwise, Lin Ke would not be so confused. Mr. Seisai, do you know Lin Ke? Lin Ke, who has a straightforward personality, did not hide anything and asked directly and openly. Yes, we are friends who have fought side by side. The person who responded to Lin Ke was not Sats, but Lin Ke, who was standing at the door with a smile on his face. Originally, when Lin Ke came out of the president's room, he wanted to go back to the room directly, but he happened to hear a few people talking about him. I just showed up and had a good chat with my friends. Anyway, I just went back to sleep. So Lin Ke and Lin Ke later shared the experience of the Samok Desert with Saucy. After a while, he shared the story of the Moro's ruins with Seisai and told Lin Ke. Buhasai, who seemed to be an outsider on the side, was eating dinner happily, but he was also listening to the conversation of several people. The next morning, the airship that was supposed to arrive at 8 o'clock was delayed by more than an hour before arriving at its destination because of an old man's volleyball activities. Tower of Trickery. This is the name of the location for the 3rd exam. Sounds like a name that would give you +2 special attack. This place also looks very strange, surrounded by wild forests. In the middlemost area, there is a thick and tall stone pillar standing proudly on the ground. This so-called Tower of Trickery is a relatively smaller stone pillar on top of this huge stone pillar, just like a crystal placed on top. However, it is such a strange existence, and its true identity is a prison. There are many criminals imprisoned inside, such as fraudsters, serial murderers, etc. What they have in common is that most of them have extremely long prison sentences, usually more than 100 years. In other words, if nothing unexpected happens, they will stay in this prison until they die of old age. However, this place was chosen as the venue for Hunter's exam, and the warden arranged that anyone who hindered the candidates from passing the exam would have the opportunity to have their sentences reduced. This is also a practice that Piorn, as the hawk among the 12 earthly branches, has always disapproved of. It is a huge mercy to allow these extremely vicious criminals who have committed serious crimes not to be executed immediately. Just delaying the examination can reduce the sentence. This approach is too childish. On this point, Lin Ke agrees with Piorn. As the airship docked at the top of the Tower of Conspiracy, countless candidates walked out of it one after another. Many of them lacked rest and looked tired. The culprit is of course Tampa, who spreads rumors everywhere. He spreads the lies he has made up when he sees people, so that people dare not relax and rest. Hello everyone, this is called the Tower of Trickery, which is the location of the 3rd exam. All candidates need to reach the bottom of the tower within the stipulated 72 hours, otherwise they will be eliminated. The bean-faced man enthusiastically explained the rules to the confused candidates. From now on, the 3rd exam has begun. This seemingly empty top has groove-like lines on it, and it is obvious that there is some kind of mechanism inside. After a period of time, there should have been about 40 candidates, but only about 20 were left on the ground. Mr. Lin Ke, if you don't suggest it, would you like to try it with us? Just when Lin Ke was standing on the edge of the tower, observing the strange-looking pink bird flying around the Tower of Trickery. Not far away, Kurapika extended an invitation to Lin Ke. It turned out that they found a total of 5 mechanisms. Seeing that Lin Ke was still above it, Kurapika took the initiative to give the extra opportunity to Lin Ke. Among this group of candidates, Lin Ke is one of the few people they know and have a good impression of. After receiving an invitation from Kurapika inexplicably, Lin Ke narrowed his eyes and suddenly thought of something. This has something to do with the Kurapika in front of me. Minen wants to travel to those strange places, so. The ruins of the exterminated Kaluta tribe. Is it considered a very special place? If so, what Pokémon would be produced? Lin Ke is very curious. As for how to make Kurapika willingly reveal the location of the ruins to him, Lin Ke already has a relatively complete plan in mind. That's a spider. With thoughts swirling, Lin Ke has already accepted Kurapika's invitation. The 5 people each picked a block and jumped up almost at the same time. After falling, they went directly to the secret room below. 4 people, including Lin Ke, landed firmly, but Rio landed on his face in a special way and fell like a dog. Is it really a brief separation? Kurapika patted the dust on his body, observed the surrounding environment, and spoke calmly. When the 5 Lin Ke people all put on the bracelets they had prepared in advance, a slightly playful word came from the monitor in the corner. I am Warden Lieber. You have chosen the path of majority decision. In the next levels, you have to make a lot of choices, and the team needs to work together to reach the finish line. In the dark surveillance room, the walls were densely populated with scenes of various candidates, and there were many scenes where no candidates appeared for the time being. In order to satisfy Warden Lieber's viewing pleasure, cameras are installed in almost every corner of the prison. Sitting in front of many pictures is a relatively thin man with a purple crest on his head. Even if he wears a pair of round eyes, he still can't hide his narrow eyes, and he doesn't look like a good person. Seeing that the so-called warden made no move after telling him the rules, Rio, who was still rubbing his face, suddenly had an idea. The first 2 examiners all recognized Lin Ke, but this one suddenly didn't respond, and he was a bit unfamiliar. So Liorio's brain twitched, he pointed his finger at Lin Ke beside him, and asked in the direction of the monitor. Warden, don't you know Lin Ke? Crack. Lieber was stunned for the first time, and then he bit the biscuit in his hand and angrily shouted into the phone. Boy, not all people are worthy of my acquaintance. In his opinion, people who haven't even passed the hunter exam can't reach that level, no matter how good they are. As he said this, the camera deflected slightly and turned the screen to Lin Ke, who looked calm next to him. Lin Ke himself didn't think that Reber would recognize him. After all, the first 2 examiners, Minchi and Seisai, would recognize him because he had spent some time with them. Here Bo himself has never met. Probably not? I think he is just a handsome guy, how could I? This person is. After seeing Lin Ke's face clearly, Lieber suddenly remembered a major event that happened recently. No. It should be said that there is more than one. His expression immediately changed, completely different from the previous anger. Wait. What did you just say? What's his name? Before Rio could answer, he heard the noise of rummaging through boxes and cabinets from the monitor. In no time, Lieber flipped through the character information tables he had collected and found Lin Ke. Lieber looked at the photos on the information table, and looked back and forth between the images on the monitor and the photos. Suddenly, the funny head shook like a rattle. It's the mind-killing master Lin Ke. It was the furious and jealous Lin Ke who personally killed the S-class criminal in the 7 deadly sins. Lieber's trembling voice echoed throughout the secret room, and his excessive surprise made his Drake voice even more unpleasant. Lin Ke stood with his hands folded on his chest, a flash of surprise flashed in his eyes. He didn't expect that even the uncle here would recognize him. What Lin Ke doesn't know is that since his trip to Kira Volcano, his reputation has already spread among the circles of cold ability users. A worthy person with many strange mind beasts. A top-notch mind killer who can easily remove a large number of thoughts of death. A being who can kill 2 members of the 7 deadly sins and has great strength. All these names have been spread. In Lieber's opinion, it is impossible for an existence like Lin Ke to appear here. If every deed was accurate, why is it necessary for a person of this level to take the hunter exam? Even if you break the rules and hand the proof directly to the other party, it is perfectly reasonable. Several people around him still had confused expressions on their faces. They only knew that the third examiner also recognized Lin Ke and seemed particularly shocked. I don't know who Lin Ke is? Why does every examiner recognize him? Only Kurapika understood what the warden Lieber said. Because the target of revenge is the world's A-class criminal Phantom Troupe. So Kurapika has some knowledge of these criminals. Naturally, I have also heard of the name of the S-class criminal, the 7 deadly sins. An existence of that level is already the top criminal in the world. Even Phantom Troupe is not as good as the 7 deadly sins. However, for such a notorious figure, the warden just now said that Lin Ke next to him had removed 2 members. Lin Ke, you killed the rage and jealousy of the 7 deadly sins? Kurapika swallowed hard, and still asked with some disbelief, Lin Ke, who looked harmless to humans and animals next to her. Lin Ke's eyes were calm and he just replied calmly to Kurapika with a confirmation reply. That 7 deadly sins, is he a very powerful character? Leo Rio touched the back of his head and asked Kurapika nervously, who seemed to know something. Seeing that several people were curious about this, Kurapika briefly recounted the relevant information about the 7 deadly sins. So Mr. Lin Ke is such a powerful person? Gon stared at Lin Ke with bright eyes. Through Kurapika's description, Lin Ke is already a very powerful being in his heart. Killua on the side put his hands in his pockets and looked at Lin Ke quietly, feeling a little surprised. Judging from the appearance, he really couldn't see how strong Lin Ke was. Glancing at the 2 people with different expressions, Lin Ke did not respond, but said calmly. It's almost time to go. Among the 4 protagonists, he has no feelings for Gon and Killua. Can't say whether I like it or not. Perhaps some of the other parties' values are not consistent with Lin Ke, so Lin prefers Leo Rio and Kurapika. Especially Kurapika, who resolutely embarked on the road of revenge for the dead tribesmen. Nan, who is willing to sacrifice himself for this, develops the 0.1 oath that can control Phantom Troupe. This is more to Lin Ke's liking. Lin Ke's words also made several people get out of their surprise and realize that they were still in the hunter exam, and there was still a time limit. Every minute and every second should not be wasted. Without Tampa's troubles in the original work, everyone made their choices very smoothly and began to move towards the bottom. Looking at the 5 people leaving, Lieber's pair of narrow eyes showed a touch of fire. Lin Ke's sudden appearance really scared him, but after calming down, he realized that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Originally, I could only watch the battles between ordinary people. Although it could satisfy my craving, it was not a feast after all. I used to think that the most important battle this year would be the battle between the examinee named Hisoka and the previous examiner. After all, they are all ninjas, so the fight should be more exciting than that of ordinary people. Things are different now, with more powerful characters coming here. How can we not seize this opportunity? The prisoners prepared in advance for Lin Ke's route were not strong enough at all. Someone of sufficient weight had to be arranged to fight against Lin Ke. Thinking of this, Lieber's fox-like sinister eyes kept scanning, and his fingers tapped regularly on the table. Boom, boom. Suddenly, an idea flashed in his mind, and he thought of the best choice he could find at the moment. Go and take the person out of prison room 0 and put him in the level where these 5 people are going to go. The jailer next to him looked stunned, and then said in surprise. Warden, that person is. Just do it. Lieber was eating delicious cookies in his mouth and glanced coldly at the frightened jailer next to him. This is his quirk. He likes to eat cookies while watching people break through levels. This is enjoyment for him. Not so for breakers. Seeing the warden's firm tone, the jailer had no choice but to obey his orders honestly. Episode 70. Win the resurrection match with rage? Break through the tower of trickery. Watching Lin Ke walking leisurely through the choices on the monitor, Lieber showed a cunning smile and thought to himself. It is true that there are many serious criminals imprisoned in this tower of conspiracy, but most of them are ordinary people who have not mastered Nen. And this prisoner number 0 is the only Nen here. Although his strength is not very strong, he can still be considered a good player outside. If it weren't for the prisoner's special nature, he would have no offensive effect. At the same time, because the prisoner has mental problems, he wouldn't be able to use it. Otherwise, they wouldn't be imprisoned here, but would be a special prison for the disabled. Now facing the prestigious Lin Ke, prisoner 0 is the strongest opponent that Reber can find. It didn't take long for Lin Ke and others to reach the challenge level with more scenes in the plot. Lin Ke and others are in a small tunnel, and they can see a platform outside in the middle, and a large screen for timing. The platform is surrounded by a suspended area of unknown depth. Ordinary people will surely die if they fall. At the same time, you can also see several people on the opposite side, but they are all dressed in black robes, making it difficult to see clearly. Before you now are the inmates of this prison. Also a testing officer appointed by the review board. Next, you have to fight one-on-one with the 5 of them. Each person can only play once. There is no limit to the fighting method. The one with the most wins wins. Killua put his hands behind his head and said with a leisurely look. It seems like I only need to win 3 games to pass, which is quite easy. In the eyes of Killua, who was born into a family of professional killers, the Zoldyck family, none of these people are his opponents. If it were just a few people in the original work, he could really say this openly. It's a pity that under someone's malicious operation, the difficulty faced by their team will rise a lot. At the same time, Lieber also added the rule that as long as the prisoner delays the examinee for 1 hour, his sentence can be reduced by 1 year. Killua then became serious. Winning was not a problem for him. But if the opponent is dealing with someone like Leorio and deliberately makes him unable to admit defeat, there is no way to forcefully delay the time. When he came to the last part, Lieber unconsciously speeded up his speech. There was a strong tone of anticipation in his tone, as if he couldn't wait to see something. Then, I will go first for the first game. Who will you send? A muscular man opposite spoke. There were a few scars on his head. He looked like a werewolf. Badut, a robber and murderer, was sentenced to 199 years in prison. In the plot, the Master Tompa appears here. 750 steps forward with an aura of abandonment, and even Leorio changes his mind for a moment. But what happened next convinced Leorio that he had not mistaken the person. Tompa fell to his knees as soon as he got up. Even before the opponent touched him, he shouted, "I give up," several times. In the first game, he was defeated by the opponent, and Shichi completely saw through Tompa's true nature. And it was Tompa who said it himself. He is a bastard who enjoys hindering candidates. The annual hunter exam has been his lifelong love. Now Lin Ke takes Tompa's place, and the one facing Badut is Killua. Killua was worried that the strong man on the opposite side would delay the game as he wanted, so he planned to play on his own. Although Leorio doesn't think Killua is that powerful, he still understands the principle of do easy. Before taking the field, Leorio repeatedly told Killua to admit defeat when the situation was not going well and replace a strong player on the opposite side, no loss at all. The result is that Killua showed off his heartbreaking performance. It was an eye-opener for everyone, especially Leorio, whose jaw almost dropped to the floor. The subsequent development is the same as the original work. Gon wins the candle holding Setsa. Now I have won 2 games in a row.